Hello and welcome to OT the podcast. We're here in the rain on a beautiful, warm, crisp spring morning talking about watches, time, and how to spend it. I just want to be an NPR podcaster. My name is Felix Schultz.
And I'm Andy Green. Is it warm rain, cold rain?
I realised as I said that sentence that I had to future forecast to the day this podcast was released, and I don't know what the weather's going to be.
End of the week, it's going to be much like today, Felix. The warm weather that we enjoyed last week is behind us. It's back on a bit of drizzle.
Love me some drizzle.
Kind of typical New Zealand weather. I think bit of a Wellington breeze outside.
Oh, why do you say New Zealand? That's a weird geographic reference, Andy.
I don't know, Felix. Could it be because we have one of the world's best rugby players joining us for a Zoom chat shortly?
Great reason. Who are we talking about here?
Big Beauden Barrett from the All Blacks.
Nice.
Also I guess Tudor ambassador, being
100%.
an All Black.
Yeah.
Partner with Tudor. Our second.
All Black?
Our second rugby player.
Hang on. Yes, Sarah.
Sarah Finney.
Yep, also an All Black, also a Tudor ambassador.
Sports balls. So we got up with Beauden in between a couple of games straight after the Bledisloe Cup, where they beat Australia, and in between the game that was just passed last week, where they absolutely abolished Australia and embarrassed us.
Well, we're used to it. Something, Sydney Swans, something football.
We're not Barstool Sports, so we do chat to him about watches. He's obviously kind of in a special position to pick and choose a little bit from Tudor's range, so that's cool. It's cool for someone who travels a lot to hear how, what they take with them, what he's drawn to as someone who's not super focused on watches, and what he likes, and hear about the relationship that the All Blacks have with Tudor is always good.
Yeah. Hey, before we get on to Beauden Barrett, another cool thing that we did, I had a little chat to you earlier today, but that wasn't the main focus of our discussion. We had a little briefing from our friends in Cupertino, Apple.
We did.
The new Apple Watch Ultra.
Yeah, the big 49mm release from Apple, targeted more towards like gearheads, athletes, people,
People with a lot of money.
Outdoorsy, yeah, about 1,300, a little bit of change from $1,300 Aussie. Everyone, all watch media is talking about it, which is always a good sign for an Apple product. I'm sure they're loving that. So,
not gonna lie, I think it looks really cool.
Yeah,
visually, I love the orange button. I love the straps. I like the chunk of it. It's sort of that sort of utilitarian gadget vibe that I can see a lot of people getting behind.
Well, that's the market. There's some special straps. There's quite a bit of new tech. It's titanium for the first time. I'm getting one sent out to me, so I'm going to have let's go into it properly once I've worn it around for a week or two, done some deadlifts, maybe battle ropes in the, I don't know, out on the street, whatever, do some workouts. And then I'll come back to you with some detailed thoughts, and I'll talk about what tech and what updates I use, because I've been rocking an Apple Watch pretty consistently for about 2 years.
Love it. Speaking of new straps, not quite the Apple's new Alpine strap, but our friends at Artem, they've got a new addition to the family. The blue loopless sailcloth.
Ooh, this is the secret strap we couldn't talk about last week, but we can talk about this week.
Yeah, pretty sure. It's on the website. I had a look at it. I'm a big fan of the loopless.
Why are you a big fan? I was thinking that as I looked at the pictures of the loopless and the one I have. What draws you to the looplessness?
Several things. One, it gives me an excuse to put a watch on a deployment. I normally don't do that if it's not on a bracelet. It's a very sleek profile. It feels, and I'm sure you can say the same for like a leather strap on a deployment, but compared to their regular sailcloth straps, it's a bit more supple. It's a bit thinner. Obviously, there's no keepers. So it feels, sort of molded to the wrist from the get-go. I can just get behind that. Listen back to my thoughts probably a couple of months ago on the loopless, but now it's in blue, Andy, and I've tried it on my trusty Artem strap testing watch. The official Artem strap tester is the Helios.
Of course, naturally.
Goes well. Goes just as good as any other Artem strap. It's $133 USD, premium product, premium price, premium value.
But you know
Um,
what? If you order more than 3 straps or 2 straps and some accessories or a lot of accessories, you get free international shipping on orders over $100.
well, that's hang on. If it's over $100, you get free international shipping.
Free, yep. And if it's
So that's one
over
strap.
300,
Yeah.
it's express international shipping.
Oh, damn, 300. That's what you want. Just
Yeah.
get one loopless blue sailcloth and like 50 spring bars.
Well, no, you just buy one of each color, buy a couple of the premium NATOs. Christmas is just around the corner,
Fair enough.
3 months away. Just get one of everything, to be honest, because it's all great and they support us. So check out artemstraps.com or artem.straps on Instagram.
Love it.
See the good work our friends at Artem do.
Speaking of good work, have you been doing any
Mm,
good work?
well, I speaking of rugby, today's guest, I saw him play at the Bledisloe Cup. He
You
quite
had a you
performant.
had a +1.
I did. I brought Father Green out to a tech. Well, it's a bit of a watch event because Tudor did invite us.
I mean, that's calling a rugby game a watch event is, I mean, a stretch.
So there were watches. I saw the new Pelagos 39.
Yep.
Sat next to me the whole match, which it got more and more tempting. Sort of a distraction, firstly, but it got pretty tempting by the end of the night.
Did you? What was the dial like IRL? Because that's the only thing I have doubts about.
It looks good. It's got it's a bit of a polish to it, a bit of a sparkle that you don't typically see on Tudor. A lot of the professional, I guess, professional models,
Yep.
sporty models, they're very brushed and
Utilitarian.
almost brutalist. Whereas this Pelagos kind of looks a bit fancy, kind of sea dweller vibes.
Oh,
Oh, it looks nice. I'm tempted. I'm tempted, especially after seeing it and trying it on the rubber strap. Dude, I was worried about the size. I thought it might be a little bit too cramped. It might not
mm,
work in those proportions. I don't think that the photos circulating accurately reflected. I think it's better in person in terms of proportions and the overall look.
quick question.
Mm.
You have you can only buy one shooter, and you have to buy one shooter. Pally 39, BB 58.
Having owned the 58, I'd probably go the Pele 39.
Good answer. Well done.
Titanium, lightweight. The steel, you put a titanium watch next to a steel watch, it's very similar. The titanium, I think, is a bit of a winner. The rubber strap's good. And it comes with the rubber strap. Price is good, sort of around 6 grand. I think it's 6 1, not even 6 1, 60 10. I think Aussie
Sure,
dollars.
sure. I mean,
It's
just pop
it's
it on an
really
Artem.
cool. Well, get an Artem out if you really want, but it is it's very cool. Like I'm quite tempted as
Really?
a summer watch. Yeah. And I'm not normally tempted by
New things.
what new things that I don't really have a need for. I got plenty of sports watches, but this is tempting me. This is if they came out with a blue, then I'd have a watch,
I
to put
mean,
on an Artem NATO.
give
But
it 6 months.
I'd say this. Yeah, I'd say it's coming. Really interesting size. I'm very here for it. But otherwise, interesting things. Cole Pennington's Goodwood Revival photo coverage. Always nice to see
Okay,
Cole get down to events that I can't get to because they're too far away.
sure.
Cole, obviously from Hodinkee, ex OT alum, joined us in the middle of the night at some point in the history of OT the podcast. But
Yep,
he did
yep.
a lovely write up with some lovely photos
I haven't
from
seen that.
Goodwood Revival, looked like a sunny day, stuff from Patek, Vintage Tudor, Seiko, all sorts of Timex, all sorts of fun stuff with like a little bit of a brief description on the wearer and sometimes what they liked about it. But
Were
just,
there car watch combos, or was it just the watches?
it was mostly about the watches. There was some cars in there, but it's mostly about the watches and some interesting people wearing it. So yeah. What about you? What have you been up
Um,
to? You've been plotting some theories with your string and thumbtacks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been always sunny in Philadelphia-ing it. And another thing, I said it at the outro of last week. I should plug it again now because I like it. I'll put it up in the show notes. I wrote a story for Wrist Check on video games and watches, which is
Oh,
which is my pet theory. I'm sticking to it. It's the brand, the exciting new future of luxury ambassadors and endorsements. We're going to see more and more of it. I'll put a link in show notes. We should read it. But sad news, Andy. Sad news.
so,
We've been chatting about it on Discord a little bit. You should join that too.
get in them.
Watchville is shutting down.
Yeah, so confirmed.
Yeah, I logged in the other day and I got a little thing saying, we're closing down Watchville. Download the Hodinkee app.
Oh, so there's a Hodinkee app. How long's the Hodinkee app been kicking around for?
Oh, years, mate. It's been probably like 2018, I reckon.
Interesting. So it's a consolidation or they're just kind of
Well,
going money
they
bankers?
don't support it. They haven't actively supported Watchville for quite a while. And they had a little spurt when COVID happened and they, did some PR around it. But Watchville's been pretty much dormant from a development point of view for at least the last 3-4 years, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean they don't really gain anything out of it, and all they do is promote their competitors' content in addition to their own. So,
So, do you want me to get into a theory?
all right, so what's going on here?
We talk about, one of the sort of overarching themes about us complaining about watches on the internet
Mm.
is how it's all changing.
Yep.
And I've done some early work on my pivotal historical document into defining those eras and those times. And I think we will look back as Watchville being a specific era in, watch media and watch enthusiasm on the internet. Because a lot of people don't, I think, remember that it started before Hodinkee. Not sorry, it existed prior to Hodinkee owning it.
Yes. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was Kevin Rose who started it in 2014, and then I think 2015 or so, he became a partner in Hodinkee, and Watchville was part of that deal.
But there was some. I'm sure there was some behind the scenes involvement. Surely, right?
Don't know, but if you look at it through that, like, so it's existed from 2014 to 2022. It was always kind of like a legacy product. Like, it was never something they built themselves.
Mm.
But it was really, really important. Like, it was a big deal early on, and it was seen, certainly when I was in at Time and Tide, it was seen as very important, as something that validated you. Like, oh, you're on Watchville, and you would always see like industry people looking at Watchville. Like, that's where they would get their aggregate sense of what was happening, was
Mm.
via this sort of app. Like, because they're not going to, and this is how I used it. Like, I don't really click on anything, but I would always just, have a quick scroll through the headlines.
Yeah, that embargo's lifted. This is
Yeah, or like, oh wow, everyone's covering this, press trip, or this has got all these views. This must be popping off. But it's one of a range. So I think we talk a lot about those sort of early forums like, Purists and Time Zone and What You Seek. I reckon that was probably peak from maybe 2005, bit earlier maybe, to 2010. Like, that's when that was active.
Mm.
Like, that's when that was the prime way of getting information about watches on the internet. Then I think 2010, that's, you started seeing the early professional blogs, like, Blog to Watch was kicking along, and Hodinkee, as alongside Instagram sort of growing as that community. Like, between the two, you had reliable, information about new models and news. That was the blogs, and Instagram replaced the community aspect. And then sort of Watchville came along and sort of was the increasing professionalization of, like, Fratello and all those guys sort of becoming more important, and, people quitting their day jobs and doing it full time and getting investors, and, you know, started turning into big business, as well as that sort of bigger media trend of the pivot to video that all the, main, there was a little moment there in the internet where every news site was like, "Oh god, we've got to do video. We've got to
Yeah,
do
everything
video.
has to
The
be
future's
video.
video." That happened to Watches too a bit later. But now I think we're seeing, over the last probably few years, a real clear shift into the next sort of phase where I think we're seeing it's more conglomerate, it's more corporate. Like, Hodinkee has been, owned by the LVMH investment, whoever they are, for a while. Watchbox is, increasingly getting involved in, editorial. They've got Jack Forster on board. There's this, sort of rumors. I don't know if there's anything confirmed that they've bought or have stakes in watch media groups.
Mm.
Um,
Australian watch media.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe other places as well. I think,
Mm.
you see somewhere like Fratello has really strong relationships with Chrono 24. There's a Collected Man and Risk Checker doing great editorial. So I think we're seeing that as the future of it. Like, it's becoming more and more about e-commerce, and of course, I think the rise of small Australian independent podcasts.
I think one thing you've missed is the Facebook groups. Because if there's been one constant this whole time, it's Facebook groups. And to be fair, they have a lot of them have sort of monetized memberships.
Yeah.
commercialized segments of them, but they're broken out. And if I was to think, where are people, forums are kind of
Yeah.
dead. Where are people
Instagram's dead.
really talking about watches? It's not Instagram. There'll be some comments. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I like this. A little bit of back and forth, but that detailed back and forth,
Yeah. It's Facebook
I
now.
think it's in pockets of Facebook groups, and that's really hard to capture because they're going to be closed groups. There's a lot of them can be private. But that's where I see real discussion still happening. And look, maybe there's an opportunity to bring an old school forum back, Felix, where
Well, I
it's
mean, that's what, yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there, sorry.
where people can actually converse and talk about watches. Because to me, that feels like what's missing a little bit. Even YouTube comments, there's a little bit of discussion,
Yeah.
and people seem to jump at the opportunity to really kind of talk about it. But I just don't know that there's
Uh,
really a place like that anymore.
well, and it's funny because I don't know if you notice this, but Discord, not to
Mm,
plug Discord again, but that's sort of why we chose that. Like, I think Slack's another thing where that's sort of happening
yeah,
outside of that Facebook ownership, which can be, a bit restrictive. Like, it's hard to post some stuff and all that sort of, sales listings are always a problem on watch groups. Um, but Discord's got forums now. Like, they've just brought back a feature on it.
yeah. So
Uh,
maybe we expand that on our Discord and get
yeah,
more of a forum discussion, because it feels like that's what's missing. And yeah, obviously YouTube as well. I'd be keen to see. I think YouTube's probably grown a lot. People
yes.
brings in that video,
Yeah.
bit
But
more
but for
personality
me,
there.
the thing with YouTube is there's so little quality there,
Yeah.
that I'm sure there is quality there, but either it's not being seen or recognized. But I can think of, on one hand, the people I would watch a YouTube video and trust it or learn something from it or agree with the sentiment.
Mm.
And that list in sort of print
Well, we'll
online
link
media.
Archie lecture up anyway after the show. Felix's favorite.
All hail the pontiff. Speaking of experts in their field,
Mm.
should we get on to All Black, Full Black, Tudor, and back? So,
I don't know what you just said, but yeah, we should get Beauden Barrett on. I think we caught him in between training or having a tea.
today's guest just happens to be one of the best rugby players of his generation. Maybe not, I don't know about all time, but we can make that claim anyway. Who's going to say no? He's a fullback for the All Blacks, and he is a Tudor ambassador on top of that. Welcome to OT, Beauden Barrett. It's an honour to speak to you.
Thanks, guys. Good to be on and chat to you.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have you here. Obviously, you were just in Melbourne recently for the Bledisloe Cup, New Zealand versus Australia. It really came down to the wire, and basically a referee call. How much pressure were you and the team under in that sort of final minute of the game that decided it all?
Yeah, look, we put ourselves under that pressure. We probably shouldn't have allowed Australia to have that opportunity at the death, and for it to come down to a referee decision. So, we had to stay calm and execute off the back of a scrum play and build a few phases. But yeah, of course, there's pressure. Bledisloe Cup was on the line, and so was the Rugby Championship. So it's important to win that first Bledisloe Cup game, because these days you have to win 2 in a row to win it off the current holder. So Australia were obviously up for it and needed to win that one.
So, Beauden, you've been just switching gears for a hot second. You've been with Tudor for a few years now. Before you came on board with them as an ambassador, did you know what a wrist shot was?
Oh, look, probably not so much the hashtag wrist shot and what that was all about. But if I was asked, I could probably have a guess.
Figure it out, yeah.
And what about now? Are you a pro? Are you?
I wouldn't say I'm a pro. Obviously, the reflection, where the hands are, all that's very important. Trouble with my hands, being a rugby player, they're not the most photogenic, so I try and cut those out and just get the wrist and the shoes in.
Yeah, it's. I imagine there was some guidelines and how to sent over, but I love it. So Tudor's slogan is "Born to Dare." That's sort of the tagline that really guides the brand. How's that been reflected in your career?
Yeah, it is. And throughout my career, I've always tried to play on instinct, and that's when I play my best, when I'm not too cluttered in the mind and I'm out there expressing myself. So that's just taking the opportunity that whenever it presents itself, the one that's right in front of me, and ultimately go out there and back myself. So it's quite a fitting tagline that Tudor are proud to have as their tagline or
Their sort of
phrase.
their sort of reason for being. One thing, Beauden, that I'm struck by is that Swiss watch brands, they're all about legacy and history, and they're really proud to be part of they've gone back 100 years, they've gone back, however long. And that's the same with the All Blacks. It's got an incredibly long and sort of proud tradition. What's it like sort of being part of that legacy and having to live up to it?
Yeah, it's something that we're all very proud of, being part of this All Black team and legacy. And ultimately, it's enhancing that, putting your own flavour into the jersey. And, no player is the same as another. So it's up to you to enhance it by being the best you can be, filling the jersey up and ultimately doing the best you can in the time that you do represent the All Blacks. So you never know when your time's up, but every time you put that jersey on, you want to give it your absolute all and leave it in a better place than you found it, which can be quite daunting when you've had some of the greats of the game play before you, but it's basically being the best you can for the team.
Yeah. So obviously these days you're pretty much pretty established in the team, but early on when you were sort of coming up and maybe your first few seasons with the All Blacks, were you worried like about that sort of the weight of all that? Like, were you pressured, feeling the pressure to perform or any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, a little bit, but I was lucky that I didn't have too high expectations of myself. Like I believed I had no right to be in the team. I was punching well above my weight, and I was just this kid from the Naki that was overachieving. And
Yeah.
a lot of the time early on, I was coming off the bench and having 20-minute cameos and basically coming on and having bursts of energy, like just, I don't know, I'd run around, and that's kind of like how I'd play the game. I'd be reasonably explosive off the bench and look to spark things up a little bit. So it was quite a fun way of playing and starting my career in the All Blacks. And throughout that, I learned a trade of starting a game and what it takes to drive a team around the field. And I was learning from Dan Carter and a couple of other handy first 5'8" as well. So that said, as things progress and I got more opportunity and reassess my goals and where I was at, there's a lot more desire to be better than, I guess, realising my potential was important and reevaluating and striving to be, better, not just a content kid coming off the bench. I wanted to start and be the best in the world.
And it sounds like it's maybe it was something that was always within you and possibly in your DNA, and it runs in the family a little bit as well. But the All Blacks, we were talking before, we read somewhere that the All Blacks are one of the most successful sport franchises in any sport in the world. Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. We've been blessed with a lot of talent, particularly from our Pacifica community. In New Zealand, we've got a lot of Pacifica players playing the game of rugby and other sports, and they make up what New Zealand is today. As well as obviously the New Zealand Europeans and New Zealand Māori and so on. So I think that mixture of talent and natural ability, I think that has some part to play. There's obviously a lot of hard work and skill that goes in and is required to perform at the highest level, but I think there's something to say about that Pacifica influence, that's for sure.
And it also seems like, I mean, even more so than, for us AFL in Australia, like rugby is what you do growing up. Like it seems like it's the only thing. Was there ever any questions? Like when you were young, were you like, oh, I'm really interested in, I don't know, ice hockey or, I don't know, bicycle racing? Or was it
Figure
always
skating?
just rugby?
It was certainly rugby, and I lived in Ireland for a year and a half when I was 10 years old and 11 years old, and I came back from there wanting to be a soccer player and play for Real Madrid, and that soon changed after probably a month of being back home in New Zealand. But it wasn't until secondary school and my final 2 years at secondary school, I had a teacher from Melbourne. His name is Brother Peter Smythe, who is a mad AFL supporter, Hawthorn Hawks, actually. And his dream was always to get one of his students over and play AFL. And basically, he convinced me to go up and have a few trials up in Hamilton and the North Island of New Zealand at the time. And I gave it a go and I started following the AFL. And the idea or the plan was to go over and potentially study at like a De La Salle Melbourne or a college over there and do university. And I was really keen on it, and I was very close to doing it until that summer I was asked to play for the Taranaki Sevens rugby team and went to the Nationals, and Gordon Titchens, the New Zealand Sevens coach, picked me. I was 18 at the time, picked me for the national squad. So that basically meant that I wasn't going over to AFL or to Melbourne to give that a crack. So it could have been. It was very close, and it was an opportunity that I just couldn't say no to. So I sometimes wonder, especially last week being in Melbourne, what could have been. And given the skill sets that we have I have as a rugby player, I like to run, I like to kick, catch, and I pride myself on my fitness. Myself and Geordie, my brother, often think, gosh, we could play this game. It looks reasonably easy, but I'm sure it's not. But it suits us. It suits the way that we are built to play.
Bit less impact too, right? I was at the game in Melbourne last week, and just watching the impact and the collisions, I was getting sort of empathetic pain for you guys all out on the field.
Yeah, look, there is that, but I think it still is a physical game, AFL, and it's physically demanding in terms of the amount of kilometres and high intensity running that they do. So I admire the work rate of those athletes. It's pretty impressive.
Has Brother Peter forgiven you for not taking him up on his offer?
I got him tickets to the game last week. He always says it's never too late, but the only thing is I'm getting a bit old now. I'm 31 now. Geordie's keen. He's also a rugby league fan, so
okay.
Yeah, it's very tempting.
I reckon he could probably.
He's a lot taller. He's 1.96 m, and he plays in the back. So I think he obviously would suit the game.
Just get him for like a sneaky VFL game or something. just rock up.
Bit of regional footy, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon that we could pick it up fairly quick.
Nice.
I love it. All right, so we should probably ask you, Tudor watches. We're a watch podcast. What watch have you been wearing the most recently? What's on your wrist now?
Right now, I've got my All Black limited edition chrono. It's got my All Black number on it, 1115, and there's one made for every All Black that has worn the jersey. So we're up to, what are we up to? 1,206 All Blacks of all time. So every time there's a new cap, another one of these limited edition watches gets released. I'm not sure where to, but it gets released. That's what I'm wearing at the moment.
Someone comes out of pulls out the workbench and makes a new
exactly.
one. That's really cool. It's a really special. It's a really special watch and thing to have. Obviously, you've got quite a few watches in the collection from Tudor. Would you say this is the favorite purely because of that sentimentality?
Oh, look, it's right up there. I love the new Panda. The white Panda is tough to beat for me. Also the GMT, the Pepsi GMT.
Nice.
Probably those three would be my favourites.
Do you find the GMT, because it's made as a travel watch, for time, do you use it or do you just sort of stick with your phone?
Of course I use it. It's hard.
I use my phone, full disclosure, when I'm on a plane.
Because I've got the time on the plane, I like just being on time. It's a backup because, obviously the phone's very clever and it's just sometimes nice to flick your wrist over and know what time it is back home because we travel all over the world, and whether I'm calling Hannah and Billy back home or whatever it is, it's just good for a peace of mind instead of always picking up my phone.
Do you travel with, a bunch of watches? A lot of people take, half a dozen, or do you just kind of pick a couple and keep it light and simple?
Usually depending on the duration of travel, like if I'm going away for a week, I'd take 2. If I'm going away for 2 weeks, probably 3. Anything up to 6 weeks, which isn't often, I might take 3 or 4. It's nice to rotate them, and depending on the outfits that I'm wearing at the time, it's good to have options.
And how do you find you rotate them? Because I'm pretty lazy these days. I sort of wear a watch for 3 or 4 weeks and then I change it, and then. But I've got friends, and I think Felix is a little bit different, where he'll kind of swap it. Every other day or every day he'll put something different on just for variety. How do you find yourself wearing watches?
I'm kind of that, wear it for 3 days and then swap out. Otherwise, I find myself changing times quite a bit. But if I'm going out for a dinner and I have time and I'm at home to carefully select something, I'll be quite particular on what I wear for that occasion. But if I'm at the hotel on tour with the team, I'll probably do the best to, match it with whatever I'm wearing and for whatever purpose, whatever I'm doing at the time. If I'm playing golf, I'll put something on with a nice, comfortable strap, a bit more flexible that way.
You read my mind. I was just about to ask you about golf, because some people are pretty particular with wearing a watch when they play golf. You've mentioned you like something a little bit more comfortable. I guess, have you seen the new Pelagos, the titanium dive watch that Tudor released? 39 mil.
The 39. That is on my wish list. That's for sure. That's beautiful, and I managed to put one on the other day, and it's just so light and very comfortable to wear, and I could see myself playing golf in it easily.
Yeah, well, it's obviously titanium, but it does come with that rubber strap, which is really quite nice and comfortable to put on, but still a little bit dressy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's on the list.
On the list. One day. Next contender for the golf. Well, I'm sure Tudor will help you out. We'll let him know to send one over.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
So we've caught you transiting. You've come back from Australia, and you're in New Zealand at the moment. And you're on the road a lot, and we've talked a bit about traveling with watches, but more broadly, as a sort of frequent flying professional athlete, do you have any advice on making the most of time when you're on the road?
Yes, I do. I like to do a lot of research on the place that we're heading to beforehand in my spare time, because I like to plan ahead, whether it's golf, whether it's booking a yoga studio, packing my bags due to the weather forecast coming up. That's so important. Getting your wardrobe right. I think also like cafes and restaurants, you want to make the most of your time when you're traveling, and it's good to get away from rugby, get out of the hotel and actually enjoy and embrace the city where possible. Obviously, you're there to do a job, but I think it's all part of the experience of touring. So a little bit of homework beforehand, that's the best way to maximise the opportunities wherever you're heading to. And so a bit of planning goes a long way.
I agree with that. And speaking of, you're a father. A lot of people like to have heirloom watches that they leave to their children. Have you thought about that? Have you got something picked out? If so, what is it?
Yes, I have a little daughter who's 2 tomorrow, actually.
Tell her happy birthday from us.
Thank you. And no doubt she will be receiving a couple of Hannah's Tudors in time. If we have a boy, my wife's expecting and due in January, or whenever we have a boy. If we do, then he'll be a lucky fella. He'll get plenty of hand-me-downs. And even my brothers or my dad, I'm at the stage now where how many do you actually need? It's quite nice to be able to give some away and share them, and that's what they're there for, to be worn with pride.
100%. The old permanent loan to the family member.
That's it.
Got a few.
Pay Dad back for all those, trips to rugby practice.
Yeah, exactly. He's still doing it too.
Beauden, it's been great to chat. We'll wrap up in a sec, but one last question. We typically ask everyone that sort of comes on for a recommendation of something they've been doing not relating to work. So if you've been watching something, reading anything, I don't know, listening to a podcast, any of that sort of jazz?
I like to do a bit of reading, because I never really knew how to study. It's obviously a skill, knowing how to study and do your best at exams and so on. It just didn't interest me. I'd like to learn in more of a practical way, or learn off other people. And so these days I find myself reading a lot of books, and I get quite passionate about my investments and how I invest and get quite involved in those. So I'm always looking to upskill myself, whether it's listening to podcasts or reading books. And I enjoy investing and doing all of that because it takes my mind off rugby. And I know for peace of mind that once I finish playing footy, that's the next step for me. And it's about looking after the future of my family as well. So that's where when I'm not on the golf course, walking the dogs, spending time with my family or out on the boat, that's kind of what I'm doing. Yeah.
I love it. Just continuous improvement.
That's right. Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining Felix and I. It's been great to catch up, a little bit more about you. Good luck with the weekend. I don't know if we should say that, but
I'll take that. Cheers, mate.
take it. And of course, happy birthday to Billy.
Oh,
what a guy, Felix. What a guy. Great to chat. It's always cool to chat to a brand ambassador, an expert in their field, someone who's made it to that elite level. I certainly learnt a lot.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I don't know if we called it on mic, but you did sort of talk about his career missteps as well, not pursuing chartered accounting.
Yes, for his lovely life. Well, Felix, thank you for joining me. Thank you, Artem Straps, for supporting you and I.
Thanks for Tudor for helping reach out to Beauden and putting that together.
Yeah, bringing Father Green and Andy Green to the rugby. That was awesome. If you want to get in touch with us to invite us to your lovely functions for sporting matches or events, or you want to introduce us to your brand ambassadors, otthepodcast@gmail.com, or you can slide into our Instagram DMs, ot.podcast.
On Instagram. Love it. We'll be back next week. Exciting things are coming.
We'll see you then.